aliens will save the world, and especially the West, mainly because it's gone way too soft and doesn't concentrate on anything important. For example, it's all over Twitter. Elon Musk said that cis and cisgender will now be considered as slurs on the platform. One side of the argument are pissed off because they think that's homophobic and stuff like that. The other side are also pissed off because the first side is pissed off and they just have a warrant like to argue. And both of them don't even know what they're talking about most of the time. So that's the problem with all the different genders and things. Both sides are mad and argue with each other. Then also racism. Didn't Martin Luther King die like 78 years ago to fight against racism? And you've still not solved racism? The fuck? Some people are probably gonna think I'm racist now. I mean, that's impossible. I go to the Black Sea each summer. So anyways, these are some of the problems we have now. A lot of other countries have much bigger problems. For example, their citizens cannot eat, cannot afford water. There are wars fought. And many similar things which directly concern the well-being and life of its population. So, if we make a little bit of a historical observation about each great civilization and empire, because we can consider the West as basically an empire because of America's influence and all the English-speaking countries' influence. The Roman Empire, and effectively each great empire, the British also, but I'm going to talk mostly about the Roman because it's the most famous one. In the beginning, they expanded each year. The main goal of the empire was to expand, to gain new territories, new land, new people, new animals, new slaves, and so on. And from a very young age, the boys went into the army, got disciplined, and went on their conquering adventure. So the main goal of each and every individual in this empire was to increase the size of the empire. The women were nurturing their children, the men were fighting, the dogs were fighting, the horses, anything, everything. Even the slaves were working towards that same goal. Well, nowadays, there isn't that one common goal. And people are also lacking adventures. It's all over Twitter that 5 billionaires got in some sort of a submarine to explore the Titanic and now are dead because they either imploded or ran out of oxygen. So why are you going to see the Titanic? It's already happened. It's not a new place. How about visiting a new place? How about being the next Christopher Columbus? Because if you now go to Mount Everest, you will not be near even half of the hero that, I think it was something Clinton, I think his name was Clinton or Edmund Hillary. You're not nearly as hero as Edmund Hillary was when he first landed. So, and let's look at also the finish of the Roman Empire. When it got to its biggest point, for example, England and a little bit of Northern Africa, and when suddenly it stopped expanding, it's filled with a bunch of soft emperors who the only thing they did was drank, had sex with multiple women, hosted sex parties, and all the royalty did essentially the same thing. nor cared about their image, their strength. And 200 years later, some scavengers, some rural people, some uneducated villagers, as probably the Romans would call them, just took over. Some barbarians. The Romans were thrown and killed and slaughtered and murdered and butchered by some barbarians. Because what? The barbarians had a simple goal. Let's kill these soft people. Same thing happened with the Chinese dynasties. The Chinese people had extremely big potential to do. They have discovered a lot of things which we now have. The compass, fireworks, gunpowder, everything. But what they lacked is a sense of exploration. They didn't explore new areas. I think in the mid 1300s they built one ship real big, like the Titanic. It was the biggest ship of the time, and tried to go to Arabia or some place like that. And I think the ship failed or something, and they didn't try it again. That was the only time when the Chinese actually decided to explore and conquer new continents, new lands. And even though they discovered all these wonderful things, they stayed in China, and we got them through either the Ottomans, the British Empire, or whoever else happened to steal them from the Chinese. And because of this no urgency to expand, the Chinese got conquered by who? The British. Because the British wanted to expand their empire. And so, another thing, especially concerning now the point. The West, the US especially, did a majority of their scientific inventions during the Cold War and World War II. Why? Because they were in competition with Russia and USSR. So they had this goal. Competition drives and makes you better. So they had to go to the moon. They had to, because the Russians had already launched the first man in outer space. So they had to go to the moon now in order to win. So now everyone is divided over racism, over transgender, over the climate. So if we want us to unite and to work for something in common, for some common goal, because working for some common goal makes you feel closer to the other people. You kind of get rid of all the differences between two people. That's why if you're teammates with somebody, even if you disagree with them on some topics, you still kind of have to end up liking them in order for the team to perform better. That happens very often in sports. Oh. So, in order for us to unite and explore and conquer something, since we've already conquered every continent, every piece of land, the only thing which we haven't conquered is space, right? The vast universe. So obviously, we have to go there. We have to conquer the moon, Mars, Jupiter, Uranus, the Andromeda Galaxy, and everything. That is how we will unite our world and work in a common goal. And if we happen to meet aliens, because I believe aliens exist, because there's just too much stuff out there for aliens not to exist. If we meet them, we will probably have to declare war on them, which, if there is a war, is gonna be the exact same situation as the Cold War. So this war against the aliens will drive us to become better. We will unite us even further, and we will save human civilization. Because we will finally, the whole world will work for some common goal. We've never really had that. Just as the British when they were conquering America, just as when the British were conquering India, when the Romans were conquering Greece. That's when your country, and in our case it will be our planet, the whole planet will work together for some common goal. That is the only way we can unite ourselves. And there's always this guy, maybe he's a climate activist or against a climate activist or some marine biologist. There's always this guy who will go, but why explore the space when we haven't even explored our oceans? Our oceans, the vast oceans. There's so much stuff out there. Only 0.1% of living creatures have been discovered. Listen. What you're gonna find in 14,000 meters underneath? Some squishy squashy squid, which when you pull up outside, he's just gonna die because he's never seen sunlight. You cannot even pet him, cannot tame him, cannot put him in a cage and bring it to your home. He's dumb, it's pointless. So who gives a fuck about the ocean anyway? Right? The ocean is important and stuff. Of course, the planet will die if not for the ocean. But it's no fun, and no one really gives a fuck about what's 14 kilometers underneath, because we cannot really use it. And even if we can, it's still not a reusable source of energy. Even if we find something, it's not reusable. So, who gives a fuck? So to recap, if we manage to go in outer space and find aliens, we will save the Earth.